Hello, everyone, and welcome into the first ever edition of Snakes Territory, the latest addition to the Foul Territory Network. I am your host, Jesse Friedman, back talking Arizona Diamondbacks baseball once again. And on this show, I am very excited to be joined by my good friend, Jack Sommers, who has also covered the Diamondbacks for a very long time, worked in the team's front office back in the day. And Jack, I know we said this off air before we hopped on together. But you and I have been having hour-long baseball conversations, frankly, much longer than an hour-long baseball conversations time and time again for the past several years. And this show is basically just those conversations, but with us pressing record and with all this great imagery, all of these incredible graphics created by our partners here at Foul Territory to make us look a little bit better than we would on our own. So I'm excited to do this and excited to do this with you, sir.
Yeah, well, we get to do this for a long time already at the press box up there at Chase Field. And some of our conversations got pretty deep. Some of them probably got a little silly. We'll do that here again, too.
As people probably know, Jack and I, we both enjoy the analytics side of baseball, and of course, we will be diving into the analytics side of the sport a fair amount on the show. But you're also going to hear from some other voices throughout the D-backs community. We're hoping to have pretty frequent guests on the show, players, coaches, that kind of thing. So you'll be hearing more from more than just the two of us over the course of the season. We're really excited to get started. And with that, Jack, the Diamondbacks just won a pretty crazy baseball game just on Sunday. And Ryne Nelson, I guess, was kind of the star of the show, right? The Diamondbacks are down 6-2 going to the bottom of the eighth inning. And Ryne Nelson came through, Jack, and he is the sole reason that the Diamondbacks won this baseball game, right?
Pitchers who rake, man. It was a great moment for the kid. He'd been trash talking for a long time, ever since Scott McGough had an opportunity to hit against the Yankees in the bottom of the 11th of an extra inning game as the last guy available, and didn't come through. So ever since then, Nelson's been chirping at Torey Lovullo saying, "Hey, give me my shot. Give me my shot. I can do this. I can rake. I'll hit a missile somewhere." Well, he bounced one up the middle and drove in a run. And the team had just taken the lead 7-6. But it was fun. You saw it coming probably an inning and a half away that he was going to have to hit, and it turned out to be a pretty big spot. Former shortstop from University of Oregon, pretty athletic guy. And he went up there and he smacked one up the middle. It was pretty fun moment. And he was hysterical in the clubhouse afterwards. I think he was most proud of his pop-up slide into second base. Got his uniform dirty.
Yes, we know Ryne Nelson, certainly could be a big factor for the Diamondbacks on the pitching side throughout this 2025 season. But we'll see if he continues to be a factor offensively throughout the course of the year as well. But he was not the only one who came through in that big eighth inning for the Diamondbacks. They wound up scoring 10 runs. They turned a potential 6-2 loss in that finale into a 10-6 win. I believe it is still probably the biggest comeback in all of baseball this season. At least it was when it happened. So pretty impressive win across the board. Other guys who stood out in that game, as you can see here on your screen, it was really Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who really came through with arguably the biggest hit with a game-tying 2-run home run in that inning. Eduardo Rodriguez was pretty solid overall in that one. 5 1/3, 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Josh Naylor also a standout performer there. Jack 2 for 2, where 3 walks and 2 runs scored, reached in all 5 plate appearances on Sunday.
Yeah, it was Naylor's double off the wall that drove in the go-ahead run. He's the one that put them up to begin with. But Gurriel's homer was electric. Just before that, Geraldo Perdomo had hit a 2-run double. They went into that inning, 6 outs away from dropping 3 out of 4 to the Cubs. Struggling. The night before, they'd gone 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They're going into the 5th, 6th inning. They had like 15 base runners, and again, were at one point 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Just couldn't get anything going. And Torey Lovullo got aggressive. He pinched hit for Garrett Hampson in the 6th inning, and there's a whole big story behind that. But that move is what ultimately led to Torrey needing to use a pitcher at the plate. It's kind of a roster construction issue. Um, Ketel Marte was the DH for the game, and Garrett Hampson was in at second base. And Hampson's the only backup infielder that they have. They're carrying five outfielders. So when you move Ketel into DH, you always have that risk that if anything happens and you have to move Ketel into a position spot, now you've lost the DH. In this case, what was happening was nobody was hitting and they needed to pinch hit for Garrett Hampson, who's a weak hitter. Pavin Smith delivered a double. They ended up scoring a run on a sacrifice fly and at least, chipped away and got a little closer at that point. But that set the wheels in motion. Torey Lovullo then emptied his bench, and he was just being really aggressive. And, he kind of got caught out a little bit, but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of pretty much this exact time last year, right? When Scott McGough, I know you referenced McGough earlier, and Ryne Nelson very much wanting to get that sort of opportunity this time around. McGough did get a pretty similar opportunity against the Yankees, the team that the Diamondbacks are about to play next. I guess there are some similarities with the schedule there. But yeah, I guess all is well that ends well. Torrey was really aggressive, as you said, early in the game, and it ultimately paid off. And the Diamondbacks did take a lead before Ryne Nelson even came to the plate. So, I think it would have been a much worse look if they were still in a hole and needed their pitcher to come through off the bench. But as you said, the offense just kind of needed something to jumpstart it. And, the Diamondbacks, as of that sixth inning where Pavin Smith came in as a pinch hitter for Garrett Hampson, like they hadn't scored any runs at that point. And you could argue that Torrey being as aggressive as he was really a catalyst for winning this game.
Right. Well, I think when you kind of telescope out and you look at the whole series, it's kind of funny that we look at Eugenio Suarez. I mean, he had a huge series that ultimately won him the National League Player of the Week, which is a big announcement this afternoon. He went 4 for 14. All 4 home runs were just massive moonshots up into the left field bleachers. Drove in 7 runs. The second game, he had 2 2-run homers. So he had 4 of the team's 5 home runs in the series. They hit 329. I mean, you look at all the guys that 5 for 8 for Marino, 4 for 7 for Smith. Alec Thomas, 5 for 7, couple of doubles, couple of singles, and a really long sac fly that almost went out. The offense, they showed that they can do it. I had mentioned earlier they were having trouble with the runners in scoring position, but if you keep putting that many men on base, getting that many hits and that many walks, eventually the dam's going to break, and it sure did. So, Diamondbacks led the league in scoring last year, and they're on a good track to have a good offense this year as well. The other thing I want to especially mention here was Naylor, that last bullet, 0 K and 18 PA. I mean, that guy, the term professional hitter gets thrown about so much, but he knows what the at-bat requires, and he puts the bat on the ball, but he can hit with power too. He's not a punch and Judy guy, obviously. So I think that he really fits with this whole offense of, we're not going to out-homer everybody, but we're going to get on base, we're going to get a lot of base hits, and we're going to get our RBIs. So it looks like it's going to be all right.
Yeah, I mean, how much stock are you putting into offense over the course of one weekend? Like, yeah, probably not a ton. But I'm with you that there were some positive signs here. The Diamondbacks had a 941 OPS over the weekend, which is second in baseball only to the Yankees at this point. Not that it really matters 4 or 5 games into the season, but yeah, this offense, at least it certainly passed the sniff test in the first series of the year. Granted, is the Cubs pitching staff going to ultimately prove as one of the best in the league? Like, maybe not. We'll see. I think their rotation looked fine. Like Shota Imanaga certainly was very, very good in his start. You saw some pretty decent performances in that regard. I know Jamison Tyone wasn't great in his outing. But the bullpen in Chicago, and this is something I kind of figured all off season long, there just isn't a lot there. And it kind of felt to me at the beginning of the series that the Diamondbacks were going to win a game at some point over the weekend by just getting to the Cubs bullpen. And as of late in the game on Sunday, it looked like maybe that was not going to happen. But then they obviously score 8 runs, and there you have it. I think that bullpen might be an issue for them.
I agree. Presley, I mean, he's been a pretty good pitcher, but boy, he had a rough series and just did not look good. He couldn't locate,
Yeah.
falling behind, and then came in the zone and got hammered. They got a lot of walks.
Moving
They drew a lot of walks in the series.
Yeah, yes, they did. As far as I guess the more negative side of things here, um, I think by and large, like it was a series split, but I think there were probably more positive than negative, at least from my standpoint, coming out of the weekend. It's amazing how much a 1 8-run inning late in the series finale can sort of change the equation. But if we were kind of nitpicking here and trying to look at like, okay, what didn't go right, what could be an issue going into the future, even though again such a small sample size. But Zac Gallen, Jack, was not particularly good on opening day.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a really big decision for Torey Lovello, deciding between him and this other guy named Corbin Burns, who apparently is a member of the Diamondbacks, although we have yet to see him pitch. And yeah, Torey ultimately landed on Gallen. He's obviously been the anchor of the staff for a while now. But you and I have talked about this a fair amount here the last year or so. Like Gallen has not quite looked the part of a frontline starter on a consistent basis for a little while now. His last 42 starts, I think, if you include the postseason in 2023, that kind of that final portion of the 2023 season where he struggled, and then all of last year and what we saw in his debut this year, his ERA is over 4 in a span that's well over 200 innings. So obviously that stat is kind of cherry picked, and I'm not here to say that Zac Gallen isn't one of the better pitchers in the game, but if you're nitpicking from the weekend, he did really struggle on opening day.
Yeah, I think what's pretty clearly happened with Zach, I mean, he's still a good pitcher, but he's fallen back from being elite. I mean, he was elite
Yeah.
for, a season and a half. And it all goes back to the fastball command, which we've talked about quite a bit. We actually have an article coming out tomorrow detailing it with charts and graphs and everything. His ability to command the fastball just hasn't been there, really for the last 1+ year. It started to drop off even somewhat towards the end of 23. And in 2024, the fastball command was just a lot worse than it was at his elite levels. And without that, I mean, he's got this great arsenal. He's got the knuckle curve, he's got the cutter, he's got a bunch of other pitches that he can throw, good changeup, but it's not going to work if he can't locate his fastball. His pitch counts are running up, and he's drawing a lot of short outings, walking a lot of guys. It's unfortunate that a guy like that is always looking to tweak something, and I think he may have tweaked himself out of his best mechanics. Because I can't explain anything else. The velocity's there. All the other secondary stuff is all still there. Why is he unable to command that fastball? I think he's tweaked his delivery and made minor changes here and there that have kind of fixed what wasn't broken.
His explanation, I was on site for opening day itself. I wasn't there for the rest of the weekend, although I know you were. His explanation on opening day was that he felt like he was rushing. Not necessarily in like a pitch clock trying to get pitches off soon situation, but more in just his motion going toward the plate. He just felt like he wasn't hitting his spots, the spots that he wants to hit when he's really in rhythm out there on the mound. So that's what he had to say after the game. I'm with you that fastball command, I think, is really the soul of the issues that he's had. And again, it's not to say that Gallen hasn't still, been really, really good at times. Like I think back to his final start of the year last season, pitching against the Giants, where he came through in a big spot and had 11 strikeouts. And, but yeah, he also, when I talked to him at the end of last year, said that his 2024 season was really inconsistent. It wasn't up to the standard that he's trying to hit. And obviously, Jack, this is a pretty big season for him. Like this is his walk year. I think as long as he stays healthy, the floor for his next contract is still going to be relatively high. But the ceiling, like theoretically could be very, very high if he really shows himself at his best for the 2025 season. But I think there's a pretty wide gap between, what's the lowest that Gallen could sign for this offseason and what's the highest. Like, there's
Right.
quite a bit of money sort of on the line with how he pitches this season.
Well, I think, you use the word consistency. And of course, every time we doubt Zac Gallen, what happens? He goes out, like you said, and throws a great game. And
Sure.
reminds us just how good he can be. I mean, the guy still went 14-6 last year with a 3.65 ERA. Now the ERA was a little high, the walk rate jumped up, but he put that team in a position to win a lot. He got a lot of run support too. We all know one loss record isn't the be all end all be all, but at the same time, if you put the innings in, you're going to get there. I think heading into 2024, before that season started, I think we all agreed like the floor for his next contract would be like the Aaron Nola deal,
Sure.
175 million, whatever it was. And it just feels like, with every month, like a few million get lopped off that. I think that floor is no longer the Aaron Nola deal. I think that floor has dropped maybe even under 150, and he needs to raise it
Yeah,
back up.
I think that's probably fair. Yeah, going back to the fastball command stuff, I tweeted out during the game. I think 7 of his first 22 four-seamers were in the zone, which obviously is really low. I want to say it was a 35% zone rate for the entire game, which, yeah, if your fastball is only in the zone 35% of the time, that's really gonna cause some issues. His fastball
He
location
missed 11
plus,
straight in one
um,
one point.
yeah, that is also, yeah, I threw 11 consecutive balls, which of course resulted in 2 walks. Both of those guys ultimately came around to score. I'm not necessarily one to read into a location plus metric from one outing. For those who don't know what location plus is, it's basically just how well did you command a pitch, where 100 is average. Anything above that is good. Anything below that is not so good. And Gallen was a 67 location plus with his four-seam fastball on opening day, which again, it's one start. I mean, it's obviously a very small sample, but that is an incredibly low number. Last year, his location plus for the season was 92, which I believe was maybe the worst out of any pitcher who threw 100 or more innings on the D-backs last year. So yeah, it's a pretty clearly identifiable issue. And it's a little bit weird because this is something that Gallen has excelled at times in the past, like his fastball command. I remember Brent Strom when he was the Diamondbacks pitching coach, like raving about how Gallen's fastball command was really what set him apart from other pitchers. And it's
Right.
amazing how something that sounds so simple can have such a big impact.
Well, it's a hard game, like you said, and consistency is key. So we'll see how he goes. I think, just kind of moving on from Zach a little bit, Jake McCarthy needs a mention here. Again, small sample size. I'm not talking about the fact that he went 0 for 8 in the series. That's how many guys went 0
Sure.
for 8. But the swings don't look great right now. And, there was a very catchable ball that was pretty key in game 1 there, kind of dove and left his feet a little bit. The ball went in his glove and hit the pocket and bounced out, and 3 runs scored on the play, bases clearing double. And there are a lot of people that just felt like, hey, Alek Thomas makes that play. Of course, Alek Thomas hit, 198 last year and was hobbled with hamstring injuries. So they're back in a mode of really fighting for that center field job. Alek messed up his hamstring last year. Jake took over, ended up having a really good year, hit 285, had a center part of the season that was really hot. And now Alek is back and running well, and he's himself as far as the legs and defense is concerned. And all of a sudden, he's hitting the ball on the line and smoking the ball. So we'll see. It's 2 games each. It doesn't really mean anything as far as evaluation, but the team is looking at everything really closely. I mentioned the roster construction issue a little while ago. I think it's very possible that within a couple of weeks, somebody like Blaze Alexander, who can play infield and is getting reps in the outfield in the minor league games out at Salt River, could be called back up. Garrett Hampson can play outfield. The D-backs may very soon determine that they don't need to carry five outfielders, and they'd rather go with infield, outfielder, utility players, and drop one outfielder. So keep an eye on that pretty closely. Jake's going to have to turn it around pretty quickly here, or he could be headed back to Reno yet again. The other thing, series concerns. D-backs made 6 errors in the first 3 games. They
Yeah.
made 62 all of last year, which is the fewest in all of Major League Baseball. They had a couple of outs on base, including in Game 3, the final out of the game. Garrett Hampson, who's there for his speed and base running, made a pretty big base running mistake and got deked out by Dansby Swanson on a pretty darn good play, and ended up getting picked off third base as Swanson ran over to tag him. And at the same game, Pete Armstrong threw out Josh Naylor at third base for the final out of an inning. Just a lot of missed double plays. There were at least 2 or 3 double plays that you're
Yeah.
used to seeing them turn and double clutching and just slow turns. And so that was kind of the narrative through the first 3 games. It's like, wow, what's with all these mental and physical errors that this team, because they live on the margins, right? I mean, for the most part, they have to win the little inches. Torrey talks about that all the time. They're not going to slug you into submission. So that's something to keep an eye on, even though that wasn't the case in Game 4, but it was very much the case the first 3 games.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's kind of been the brand of the Diamondbacks the last few years, right? Has been that there's like a level of competence. There's a level of just making all the small plays, right? Torey Lovullo definitely brands himself as a manager on that. So it felt to me like the Diamondbacks outplayed the Cubs over the weekend, all in all. But they came away with a series split, right? And you look back at a lot of those moments you just mentioned, and it wouldn't have taken all that much to flip, that Thursday game, even though they wound up losing by 4 runs on opening day. You mentioned the catch with Jake in center, or I think there was a double play ball potentially right before that they weren't able to convert. So there was an opportunity here to take 3 out of 4. Maybe if they eliminate like all those mistakes, maybe there would have been a route to sweeping this series. But ultimately, Jack, they kind of avoided disaster. I think it would have been rough to come away from that first series losing 3 out of 4. Series split feels like a totally fine outcome. And now we're looking, if we kind of look ahead here with our series preview of the New York Yankees. The Arizona Diamondbacks are traveling to New York, and they're taking on a Yankees team that scored 36 runs against the Brewers in 3 games. They hit 15. They've hit 15 home runs. Yes, we'll talk about the Torpedo Bats. But yeah, I mean, this guy named Corbin Burnes is pitching for the Diamondbacks on Tuesday night, and that feels like a pretty big
Finally. So,
Yeah.
for those that might not have been totally in the loop as to what happened there, when Torey Lovullo chose Zac Gallen to get the opening day start, it would have necessitated Corbin Burnes pitching on 6 days rest in Game 2, and he wasn't willing to do that and go out of his routine. He's used to working on 4 or 5 days rest. And while some people may want to say, hey, just, pitch when they tell you to pitch. And he had a very good counter argument. He said, look, my routine is something that I set up 5 years ago, and it's what made me the pitcher I am today. That's why you signed me to a 6-year, $210 million contract. I don't think you want my first time out for you as a Diamondback to leave that routine behind, to leave everything behind that's made me successful. And he plans out every single little detail of what he does from the minute his outing is done until it's the next time to throw. I mean, all pitchers do that, but his is at an insane level. I mean, he's got spreadsheets, and every minute of every day is lined out, and that's his process. So that's why Corbin Burnes ended up taking another backfield start and then pitching the opening series of the Yankee series. No, he's not the 5th starter in the Diamondbacks rotation.
I mean, technically, he is the fifth starter in the Diamondbacks rotation, Jack. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, so it is Corbin Burnes against Will Warren on Tuesday in the opener. Will Warren, I'm not going to lie, I don't know a ton about Will Warren. He's a 25-year-old right-hander, pitched a little bit in the majors last year, didn't have a particularly lot of success. Game 2 is Zac Gallen against Carlos Rodon. Good pitching matchup there. And then the finale is Merrill Kelly against Carlos Carrasco, who apparently is still pitching in Major League Baseball, which is impressive. This is kind of the big three for the Diamondbacks, right, Jack? I mean, Corbin Burnes, Zac Gallen, Merrill Kelly. I guess for the rest of the season, it might kind of feel like Corbin Burnes is your number one starter, and you have these three guys in succession. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like over the course of a 3-game series with all three of those guys going. And again, against the hottest offense in all of baseball. We mentioned it a few minutes ago, 36 runs in 3 games. They swept the Milwaukee Brewers. And Jack, I guess it's time to tell the people about the Torpedo Bats. Are the Yankees cheating, or what happened here over the weekend?
Well, they're absolutely not cheating. I mean, you can't get a bat into a major league game that hasn't been vetted and cleared. I mean, there's a whole process to have your bats that you manufacture approved and to be able to get into a major league game. It's not an easy thing to become an approved vendor. So, the
Sure.
bats are legal. And, the simple explanation with the torpedo bat is some of the mass has been moved from the end of the bat to about 6 inches off the end. Some people call it torpedo, some people call it a bowling pin shape. I'm sure almost everybody watching this has already seen some kind of pictures of it. And at least 5 of the Yankee hitters, Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe, we've got Paul Goldschmidt, Bellinger, and Austin Wells, I believe. So at least 5 of them were using it. And, they were all part of the home run parade. So much so that before the season even ended, I heard that Rhys Hoskins went and ordered some. And players throughout the league are trying to jump on the bandwagon. So it's a legal bat. It meets the weight specifications. All the dimensions are legal within the written rules. Now, either ML
They're legal. They're legal for now, Jack. They're legal for
yeah, right.
now.
Well, I mean, we don't know what's really good. I mean, Aaron Judge isn't using it. He's hit 4 home runs and 3 in a game, and he's not using it. He's just a great hitter. So we don't have enough data to know that this is really the case. Anecdotally, Dansby Swanson was also using one in the D-backs and the game against the D-backs, and I alerted our friends over in the booth. I have my binoculars out, and I'm saying, "Hey, get your cameras on Dansby Swanson. He's got a torpedo bat on his shoulder." And they picked it up right away. They got to it. And sure enough, he takes a swing and the thing shatters. It just like half the bat just went down the third base line. And then later he got a new one and he hit the ball weakly down the third base. The point here being is you're probably going to see fewer cheap ground balls and flares get through because that are hit off the end of the bat. Because I think there's just obviously the mass moved. So those are going to be even weaker and just not quite be able to, get through. So it'll be interesting. But if the data shows that these are really leading to that many more home runs, 1 or 2 things are going to happen. MLB will rewrite the rules, or everybody in the league's going to be using them.
Those are the only 2 options. Yeah, I mean the torpedo bats to me are in a way like not really surprising, right? It almost kind of dawned on me like I feel like I should have seen this coming. Like it was only a matter of time before some MIT guy, like figured out how to remake bats within the rules that would maximize the damage that you could do on barrels, where you really do hit the ball right on the sweet spot. And that's effectively what these bats are doing. I did think it was interesting, Jack. I believe this was Trevor McGill, reliever with the Milwaukee Brewers, who of course faced the Yankees over the weekend. His quote: "This is a story from ESPN's Jeff Passan. He said, like something used in slow pitch softball." That was his his description of the torpedo bat. So It's become basically the biggest story in all of baseball here over the last few days. And the Diamondbacks will get to see it on display firsthand with a number of Yankees hitters, presumably using these bats into the future. And I guess Aaron Judge didn't use it, but he's Aaron Judge, and he hit 4 home runs over the weekend anyway. So he could basically use any bat up there, and he'd probably still hit the ball over the fence. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what these few days look like.
Well, like you said, the D-backs have their top 3 pitchers going. It should be a good series. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. Best against the best. That's what you want to see every time.
Well, we appreciate you all joining us here for this very first episode of Snakes Territory. I know our video may be a little on the blurry side throughout this. We'll do our best to get those issues ironed out over time. We appreciate you bearing with us. Be sure, as you see here on your screen, if you're joining us on the video side, to like and subscribe. You can find the show on the Apple Podcasts app, on Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. You should be able to find it there. And then, of course, on YouTube here as well. With our channel under Snakes Territory. If you can like the video, drop a comment. We'd love to hear what you think. Tell us what you think of the Torpedo Bats, whether you think they should be outlawed by Major League Baseball here in a matter of days. Jack, I also failed to mention at the top of the show, for those of you who don't know, Jack covers the Diamondbacks on a daily basis for Arizona Diamondbacks on SI, does an outstanding job. So if you want more Jack Sommers content, you can go over to their website. And it's not just Jack. He has an army of other writers over there doing great work as well. So be sure to check that out. And I guess I'll drop Twitter handles here as well. You can find the show at Snakes Territory. You can find me at Jesse and Friedman. Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, at Shoe Wizard 59. Did I get that right?
You got it. You got it.
Okay, there we go. Well,
at
thank you all
59
again.
Is correct.
Okay, at Shoe Wizard 59. Be sure to give Jack a follow as well if you have not already. Thank you again to all of you for joining us on our debut episode. We're planning 3 episodes per week throughout the season, so stay tuned. Our schedule here for this week and kind of the general rhythm of the show is still TBD, but you can certainly expect to hear from us again here very soon. So thank you again all for joining us. We appreciate your time, and we will see you all again very, very soon.